Thanks for having me. I actually did request from the conveners of this conference that I could actually serve wine during this session, but I was denied that opportunity. So, but that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the wine business. So let me just get going. I'm going to tell you a story about corporate wine and Balance Internet. I'm lucky enough or challenged enough to actually have two hats in life. I'm the managing director of Balance Internet, which is a digital agency that has about 40 clients in the Australian and Asia Pacific market, mostly large retailers. But I'm also the founder and owner of Wine ASAP, which is an online wine business. And what I want to talk today about is some of the things I've learnt by actually having those two hats. So being an online retailer and also being an agency and actually sharing that hat. And the outcome of wearing that hat is this book called Add to Cart, which I wrote with one of my clients, Kylie Lewis, who we work with on the KKK build, building the KKK website. So I want to just share some learnings, share some challenges, and just talk to you a bit about that experience of having, I suppose, a guinea pig e-commerce site to play with. So let me just talk to you a little bit about the Wine ASAP business and corporate wine in particular. Corporate wine started out actually 18 years ago as a music site selling CDs online. And I remember, Rani, you talked about your first order. I remember my first order online was in 1996, and I got an order from Denmark, and I was just blown away that I had this site online. It was a proprietary open source PHP site, and we received an order from Denmark, someone I didn't know buying a CD, and I was so excited. 18 years on, that site that started out, has gone through a huge journey, is now this wine business. So it was actually born in around about 1996 as a music.com called the Australian Independent Artists Network. And when Napster came along and just blew that business model out of the water, I moved on and said, well, you know, what else do I love? I love music, but I also love wine, and I'm originally from Adelaide, and I knew lots of winemakers, so I thought, you know what, I think this selling wine online would be a pretty good idea. At the time, Foster's had just bought Wine Planet and shut it down and said, this online thing's never going to work, the internet's never going to work in wine. And I thought, you know, I don't agree with that. So I went in, I met some winemakers, and I built a site called cleanskins.com, selling clean skins, which is part of this folio. During the journey of building that site and building a digital agency at the same time, this site and the 4 sites that it actually represents has actually been a guinea pig. I think I've brought this site down, or the sites in this folio down, about 100 times. It's a running gag at Balance Internet. Oh, guess what, James? Cleanskins website's down again. Why? Because we're experimenting with it. We're trying new extensions, we're trying new plugins, we're trying everything that comes out in the Magento ecosystem. We're having a crack at on this site, and it's breaking it, but I sort of don't care, but I do care. The amazing thing is that over the last 5 years, it's actually become profitable, which is kind of surprising to me that we're actually making some money now. So I think that the takeaways from this slide are, first of all, it's been online a long time. It's been through a lot of change. Second of all, it's cash flow positive now, recently, but despite itself. And the last is it's been through a lot of pivots over the journey. So let me talk to you about some of the challenges of running this online retailer. The first is product. Clearly selling wine, but it's not just selling wine. The main core business of this group is actually called corporate wine, and it sells custom labelled wine. So you can order a couple of dozen, 5 dozen, 10 dozen, 20 dozen wines with your own label. Right now is the peak time for this business. So it's very seasonal. You know, we do no sales in January, no sales in February, and then all of a sudden come around October, September, November, because of Christmas and people ordering gifts for their clients, all of a sudden it just goes through the roof. So it's got to be scaled and closed down and scaled and closed down every year, which for a lot of reasons is very difficult. And part of the challenge is trying to keep up with product, because wines change, vintages change, tastes change. There's lots and lots of opinions about wine. There's the winemaker's view of wine. There's the sommelier's view of wine. There's your customer's view of wine. There's our buyer's view of the wine. They've all got different views and they all want to share them. So we've actually been struggling with that over time. So the first thing we've done from a developer perspective is gone, you know what? Let's put a PIM in. Now, a business this size, you wouldn't put a product information management system in. You'd put it into a big business. But we're putting a PIM into this business right now to manage all the channels. And I'll talk a bit more about that in a second. The second thing we're doing is we're outsourcing content. We're outsourcing content to industry specialists who we can find that know all about our products, so sommeliers and winemakers, and we're trying to get that content in. But all of a sudden now, we've got all these people writing content and we're trying to keep it consistent and of high quality. The third point is video is really important, media is really important. You can't really take an image of wine, but you can take a video of wine. You can talk about it. You can talk about its flavours and its nose and its taste and how fantastic it is. And we really wanted to enable that, but we had to enable it cheaply. We don't have much budget. So we had to use YouTube and we had to work out a way to get the business and the people in the business to actually produce the videos and then load them up. And the last thing we had to do is work out how to distribute this content through not just one site, but 4 sites, and also offline and online. So let me just talk to you a little bit about more, just to give you a bit more of an example of the product so you just understand it. Here's 3 examples of our products. So this here is a Adelaide Hill Sauvignon Blanc. This is a Hunter Valley Cabernet Merlot. And this is the Reserve Sparkling Brut. This is the one I actually wanted to serve this afternoon. So these 3 products are all individually custom made for clients. So the client actually orders them, but then we actually go through a design process, designing their own label with their own brand, with their own message. Can have photos, can have images, can have stories on it. We've had some very, very funny labels made over the time. You can see here they're different shapes as well. So it's a very custom business. Each customer gets a custom experience. And as I mentioned when I was on stage this morning, every customer is treated like an individual rose petal. All right, let me show an example of one of the videos that we've had to produce. And we've produced a whole series of these videos. And I'll just play it and I'll talk about it afterwards. So if I could just cue the video, please.
This is our Barossa Valley Shiraz. If you love Shiraz, like I do, this is a fantastic wine and a great example of the varietal style. The Barossa Valley Shiraz is dense red, purple in colour, and it's got ripe fruity aromas. The palate has abundant flavours of ripe berry fruit and some spice and lingering mouth-filling tannins. This is a full-bodied red wine and it's got an alcohol content of 14.5%. The Shiraz has got a screw cap closure and it comes from the renowned Barossa Valley region in South Australia. I think this is the perfect wine to complement a meal, I should say, such as roast beef with a tomato-based sauce or gravy. It's also got excellent cellaring potential if you can stop yourself from drinking it all. You could put it aside for 2 to 3 years.
Pretty short, pretty sharp, just fairly cheap, but across all of our product range, we're constantly producing these videos in-house and putting them up on the site to help our clients understand, in very simple terms, what the wine's about. So let's talk about the PIM. So what we decided to do is go, okay, all this content, all these inputs and outputs, let's actually put a PIM in. So what PIM stands for is Product Information Management System. In Magento, the CMS features of it and the product management features within Magento are fantastic, but if you've got lots and lots of channels and lots of inputs and outputs, sometimes a PIM can be a very helpful thing. So just talking about, I suppose, the inputs and outputs. So first of all, we wanted to collect data from lots of sources. So we wanted to get data from the winemakers, the people making the wine. We wanted to get data from sommeliers who tried the wine. We also wanted to get data from Kirsten, who you saw there, who was doing the video, who runs the business and understands the product. Then you've got the people who are actually doing the quality control on the product at the wholesaler, who we're buying the wine from. And then you've also got those important people that we all love, the customers. They also want to put input in there as well. And all of this information can be pushed into the PIM. Once it's in the PIM, through you can have feeds, you can have manual entries, you can have uploads, there's all different ways to put it in. Once it's in this PIM, you can then enrich it, translate it, and control it in a really, really simple format. It can be edited by lots of different people with lots of different user access controls. They've got no access to your finances or your commercial data, and then it can be pushed out. And here we see eCommerce, Magento. So you can push it into your website. You can push it also into eBay or into Amazon or into Google Shopping or whichever channel you want to participate in, directly through the PIM or through Magento, depending on what works. You can also then push it into mobile applications. And what we're doing here is quite interesting. We're actually pushing it into print catalogs. So when we actually send product out to customers, we send custom catalogs. If they've bought champagne, we might send them a little catalog saying, hey, we've got other champagnes. And we might print that out and put that in the box. We can do that out of the PIM. And in fact, we're in the moment, we're trying to work out how to get data straight out of that PIM into InDesign, so we can actually do that in-house as well. So this is an example of, I suppose, the advantage of having someone who's in a digital agency running an e-commerce shop, because I can actually try this stuff and see how it works. So a bit more example of R&D. When this business has gone through 3 iterations of supply chain. When I did my MBA back in the mid-90s, which is when I discovered the internet, I was just talking to Ben Marks before about Netscape 1.0 and Real Audio 1.0. That's when I started working with the internet. And back then, I wrote a paper on disintermediating the supply chain in the wine industry, and that's what this is. And it was all about going, you know what, we could get the wineries to deliver the wine straight to the consumers and cut out the entire supply chain. So I tried that. It didn't work. Why? Because I remember going to the Barossa Valley one day, sat down with the winemaker, and he's sitting down there, it was Christmas time, and I had all these orders pouring in. I'm like, great, how are we going with the orders? He goes, what orders? I'm like, you know, all the orders we've sent you, you know, all the labels and stuff, we've sent them all to you. And he goes, oh yeah, and he opens this drawer, he goes, oh, all your labels, and he pulls out all the orders, they're in his drawer. He'd forgotten about them. So I was trying to disintermediate the supply chain, but I'm also dealing with people who are winemakers and who are artists and artisans who really didn't understand that I needed to get that stuff to the customers really quickly. So it started out with the wineries doing it, then it went to large wineries doing it, that didn't work. Then it went to a wholesale dropship model, which is where it exists today. So there's been 3 iterations of actually how the operational logistics work. Through that journey, it's been a massive amount of change for the people running the business, for me, the technology, trying to follow it along. As I went, that didn't work, that didn't work, that didn't work. Okay, that's working now. Okay, that's working, let's go. And building systems around that. So now what we're doing is we're road mapping. I've got a 1-year and a 3-year roadmap for the business. It's largely influenced by the business and the customer, but it's also influenced by the digital agency perspective, which says, I want to try this and I want to try that, and why don't we put this in and why don't we put that in and why don't we try this on the site and see how that works with the customers, so we can use that R&D, that intellectual property, and apply it to our broader retail customer base. So there's lots of influences going on here. Quite frustrating for the people trying to run the business as well, right? So re-platforming, real pain, real pain. So interestingly enough, started out with proprietary site, then it went to eCommerce, so that old gem comes up again. Then it went to Magento, and it's been through a whole bunch of iterations of versions of Magento. And we actually upgrade the site in beta, you know, in the latest versions of Magento, actually trying to work out how the latest versions of Magento are working. But now we've learnt, schedule this change in your downtime. Rani, I'm sure you talked before a little bit about some of your challenges. We now do this in the off-peak. I don't touch the site at the moment. From about, I don't know, August, September, October, November, don't touch anything. Don't break anything. Just get it ready for the load, the traffic load, set it all up, get the operations working, and do not touch anything. Come January, February, right, overhaul, change it, break it, fix it, turn it upside down. So always schedule your change at a time when you've got some downtime, if you do have any. Okay, let's talk about some of the logistics challenges. So we needed to ensure that we delivered products to the customer in both a timely and high quality manner. So I told you about those experiences with the wineries at the start. You know, they were constantly trying to, oh, where's this thing? We've forgotten it, and we're going to a wine luncheon and we haven't delivered your wine. So that didn't work for us. So we actually had to go back and use a wholesaler. We actually had to go back and use someone who understood logistics. And through that process, they originally handled the freight. We broke the bottles. We delivered them to the wrong spot. Some of the couriers used to decide to try the wines around Christmas time to just see how that, you know, all sorts of stuff started to happen. So we actually took that back over. So whilst we're using dropship models and vendors to look after the freight and logistics, we actually went, you know what? We need to own that. We need to control that. So we actually took that back in-house. And now we've got a system where we monitor it and audit it. And in particular, we actually monitor via the consigned numbers of Australia Post exactly where the products are in the system, and we can communicate that to our clients. So the key learnings there: explore all the agreements and direct relationships, look around for different couriers, look around for different freight companies. There's aggregators in the market. There's all sorts of different options coming in the market. They're all integrating back with Magento much better now. So really keep that dialogue going and understanding what your options are around freight. Negotiate, crunch a deal. Crunch a deal not on today's volumes, but on your future volumes. And they will actually crunch. So you really just got to keep negotiating. Consolidate and negotiate freight rates and draw up workflows. Workflows are real critical here. I love them. I love drawing up diagrams for everyone in the supply chain saying, you know what, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. There's diagrams right through this business explaining what each individual in the supply chain, all the way from the order being received or coming in through the phone, all the way through to it landing on someone's doorstep, and even post-sale support. There's workflow diagrams right across all of that. Okay, HR. We've got about 40 clients, 40 retail clients in the market, and one of the most common questions we get, David, myself and Mal, is, can you help us find someone to run our e-commerce site, to run our digital? And it is a real challenge for a lot of retailers out in the market, and it's no different for this business. I think I've been through about 6 people to finally find the right one. And once I found the right one, I've actually created her a lifestyle job. She's so important to the business, and she understands digital, and she understands the product, she understands everything about it. One, I've created her a lifestyle job so she can work from home and her hours and work and put support around her. 2, I've actually cut her into the business. So I've actually given her profit share or sales share, so she really gets, if the business succeeds, she succeeds. And 3, we discuss our collective weaknesses. My weaknesses, her weaknesses, and I have a lot. She's got a few. And what we try to do is go, you know what, let's talk about the weaknesses here, and let's get other people around us to plug those gaps. So I hope Kirsten won't mind me talking ill of her, but I will talk about her weakness, and her weakness is she doesn't really understand digital marketing and Google and channels that we're advertising in. She just doesn't get it. She doesn't get analytics. It's just not her thing. She loves customers. She loves the wine. She understands the logistics. She understands how to get the business moving. She understands the product. She understands the content. But she doesn't get how to drive traffic to the site. So after years of frustration, I went, you know what? I'm going to get someone else to do that. And I think there's a learning in that for all retailers in the room, is that actually try and look at your people, try and build up their strengths and then plug their weaknesses. You've also got to manage key person risk. I've seen a lot of retailers as a digital agency lose people. In fact, one of our retailers lost someone just yesterday. They moved on. It really causes a lot of chaos. So you've got to actually think that through. What if that key person leaves the business? What's going to happen? Develop these role workflows. That actually helps, because when someone comes in to replace that person, they actually know what to do. Understand holes in their skill sets. It might not be marketing. It might be they don't understand technology, or they don't understand finance, or they don't understand packaging. Whatever their role is that might be doing everything, try and plug those holes in the skill sets. And keep training, educating, and pointing them in the direction of information that's going to help. So what next? So we talked about freight, we've talked about operations, we've talked about product. What's next? What's the next challenge for the business? And what's the next technology innovation that we're going to try and apply within the business? It's CRM. So these businesses that we're dealing with and the customers we're dealing with across the 4 channels really beautifully overlap B2C and B2B. They're sort of, some of them are B2C, but they could be B2B. So any of you in this room could buy a case of wine from cleanskins.com that you like, but also potentially anyone in this room could, through friends or family or your own business, order bulk wine with the customised labels. So you can act as B2B and B2C. And we've been challenged with how do we address those different customer personas and those different purchasing behaviours. So we've tried a CRM. So what we did firstly is we just built our own little automated proprietary CRM that sent out automatic emails and bits and pieces. That kind of, sticky tape and string kind of approach worked for a while. And then we went, you know what, we need to go with the CRM. So we had a good look at Salesforce and a good look at a product called Highrise. Salesforce just ended up being too expensive. So we put Highrise in, which is a, dinky die sort of SaaS CRM, not bad. And that's currently what's in the business right now. Next year, we are going to put in Oro CRM, which is a product that we are working on at Balance. And this is going to be one of the first businesses that we put that into in its full extent. And what we're going to do is integrate that CRM directly with the e-commerce platform, directly with the EDM platform, directly with the product information, and push customised marketing automation out to customers. So We've got to work out what all the inputs for the CRM are and what all the outputs are, and work out all those marketing workflows. So just a bit more on CRM and some of the things we're thinking about doing. So what we want in our CRM is a single view of these customers. So if one of you buys a case of sparkling wine and then you buy 10 dozen wines with your own labels on it as well for your own business, we want to understand both of those activities. And if you've called in via the phone and ordered over the phone system through the customer service people, or you've ordered online, we also want to understand that. We want to understand if you've responded to an EDM that we've sent you. We want to understand pretty much all inputs and contact points that we have with you through a single view, and that's what's going to be in the CRM. Through that, we're going to be able to offer targeted bundles and offers directly to clients based on what their preferences are. We're going to be able to run pretty extensive shopping cart recovery and sales order recovery, looking at abandoned carts and stuff like that and making sure that we move in on that. We're going to be able to put in personalised B2B marketing, and we're actually going to be able to communicate with each of these individuals like that individual rose petal. We're going to be able to do that via automated response. We're going to be able to build reporting and dashboards to watch this situation in real time, so that when a call comes in, hello, Mr. Customer, how are you? Oh, I can look you up on the CRM. Okay, I see you bought this before, that before, you liked that last time. Gee, I see that you really like McLaren Vale Cabernet Merlots. Is that what you want again? Et cetera, et cetera. And then from a sales point of view, we were actually really focusing on lead capture. A lot of people visit the site, but then they're not tagged. We don't know who they are. They leave, they come in, they look around, they bail out. We want to capture them. We want to dolphin tag them. We want to know who they are. And we want to create mechanisms so that you go, you know what, I'll give my information away here. I want to get that information. I want to read about this. I want to read about that. So we get them to give us their information, so then we can follow them up with either fairly aggressive or even subtle forms of automated marketing activity. Okay, so these are the 4 sites. So I just want to talk a little bit about what each of these sites do. So the first site is Corporate Wine. That sells customised, bespoke wine with your own labels individually to the customer. That's more of a B2B play. Cleanskins.com sells wine in cases that are clean skins with labels, but you don't have to put them on if you don't want, with information about the product directly to individual customers. So that's a B2C business. Fundraising Wine allows clubs, sporting clubs, charities to raise money through selling wine through their club or their charity. And the eBay store, which is Wine SAP, actually allows people to buy the clean skin product and potentially see the corporate product through eBay, and then pushes across into cleanskins.com, and we actually form this relationship with them where they can order in both places. We also use the eBay store for clearance. So we're actually dealing now with 3 major wine suppliers, so it's a drop ship model. One of them's in the Barossa Valley, one of them's actually in Melbourne, and another one's in the Hunter Valley, and we use those 3, and we've actually got all the processes going. So depending on what product gets ordered or what supplies they've got, we can also use the eBay store to help them clear their product. So that leads me to Add All to Cart, which was the title of the talk. What happened about a year ago is Kylie Lewis from KKK was one of our clients, and we just launched the KKK Magento Enterprise website through Balance. It was a great project, and we're really proud of the site. It was a fantastic thing. And Kylie decided to move on in her career and form a small consultancy business, mainly focusing on digital strategy and social marketing. And she approached me and she said, hey, you know what? With that experience I had with you, it was really tough. It was really full on. But why don't we write a book about it? Why don't we actually try and document kind of all the things we had to deal with when we built an e-commerce site? So we decided to fund Kylie to help us to write the book within Balance. And I tried to bring as much of the experiences of the pain I've been through in the wine business to the table, some of the experiences we've had with our key retail clients in Australia, and also Kylie's client-side experience, and it came together in a book. And David is in the room. You'll be testament to the fact that it was a struggle to write it. It was sort of yin versus yang a bit there for a while. I'm pretty much a nerd, and she was pretty much understands customers and people a lot better. So it was sort of a combination of things, but we actually got this together. And now we use this as a tool to work with our key retail clients to really just go through and understand that gap that we talked about. So it's that I don't know what I don't know gap. So you pick the book up and you might look at the payment gateway section, or the platform section, or the operations section, or the people section, and you'll be able to say, you know, I've got a gap in my knowledge there. What things should I be aware of? And we're using it in all of our scoping and with all our clients at the moment. So we're excited about it, and thank you for your time. Cheers. Any questions?
Yeah, just a quick one. Can I have your business card?
Sure. You want some wine? No worries.
Is your book available?
To clients. Yep. So we all of our clients get one when we start with them. Yeah.
What PIM are you using?
Akinio.
Okay. Second question, sorry. eParcel. What do you use to integrate with that with Magento?
At the moment, because the orders we've got there's not huge volumes going through, we're doing it manually.
Yeah.
Don't want to do it like that, but because we've got 3 drop shippers and not one central location, but we've got some plans with the new API that's coming out with Australia Post, which is due out in February, to get those 3 integrations going with eParcel right across.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So you mentioned something about directing eBay customers to the CleanSkin website.
Yep.
Do you mind elaborating a little more?
So they're very separate channels, and under the rules of eBay, you're not really allowed to cross-market. But what we do is we, I suppose, we work together. So the eBay store does a lot of clearance, a lot of customer acquisition sort of stuff. We send out the product, but I suppose cleanskins.com is the brand, and occasionally people move across and buy from there. But it also happens the other way. We occasionally get people from the CleanSkins site pushing across to eBay. So I think it sort of works like that.
Hi, I'm just looking at your corporate wine website on my iPhone. It doesn't look like you transact online. You don't process transactions.
No, we don't. The corporate wine site doesn't. The CleanSkins site does, and obviously the eBay site does, but the corporate wine site doesn't transact online. We actually go, but we use the back-end infrastructure of the CleanSkins site to do it, yeah.
And what's the reason for that?
It was interesting when we started to, because it's so custom, we found that when we were trying to build custom pieces, we really needed to talk to them. So we're trying to get that interaction with the customer service person and then create the online transaction using the system, but via a person.
So do you charge for artwork?
No, it's all part of the price of the product, yeah.
Any other questions? Excellent. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.